Hello, hello. I'm Millie Weaver, and I'm here with Gavin Wintz. So, Gavin is, as many of you guys know, he's the co-founder of Quix, and he's also my significant other. But he's going to be joining us today because we're going to be talking about Quix in part of this broadcast. But first, we're going to start with talking about some big tech news that's very important on the front of the tech war and censorship. Many conservatives, including myself, have been the subject of big tech's ire, right? We've been censored. We've been banned from certain tech platforms. One of the most recent ones for myself was when I was actually suspended on Twitter this past week. So my suspension on Twitter started on August 31st. And it just ended, I think it was today or yesterday. But basically, the reason why Twitter said they banned me was because of my last tweet. Now, I'm going to read this last tweet to you guys. I'm going to show it to you guys. And you guys can judge for yourself whether you think this is something that is a bannable offense or ban-worthy, right? Like anyone's speech should even be banned. Give me a break. But this is what I said. I said, next time someone tries to convince you the government is trying to keep us safe with the COVID mandates, kindly remind them that our same government just armed the Taliban and abandoned Americans to a death sentence. Well, apparently that didn't go well by Twitter. Apparently, under Twitter's rules, you are not allowed to criticize the government if Joe Biden's president. You see, when all the leftists criticized President Trump nonstop ad nauseum, that was fine. That was fine. You could criticize the government all day under President Trump's administration, but if it's Biden's administration, oh no, you get suspended for a week.
They even promoted leaking.
Right.
Under Trump. Leaking was good. Breaking the law was good under Trump's admin.
Everything was upside down and backwards world, according to the clown world that is big tech and the Democrats and the mainstream media and big media, should I say, which we're going to talk about that. So yeah, I was banned from Twitter for a week, guys. So if you didn't hear from me, that's why. Some people have, I've heard from a lot of you guys out there, Millie, why aren't you posting as much content? Why aren't you putting as much stuff up on YouTube and on these social media platforms that we follow you on? Well, it's really simple. It's because when I do, I get punished typically. And I've already gotten warnings and copyright, or not, I think it's called community guideline strikes on YouTube. So my channel is already in jeopardy of being banned entirely. So I really have to think pretty good about the timing and what videos I put out, because they are looking for any and every excuse to ban me on YouTube. And at the end of the day, I'm very solutions oriented, and so is Gavin. We want to try to be strategic in getting information out to you guys that's going to actually make an impact. Like, we've been talking about this amongst ourselves. Like, we can sit there and complain all day about the censorship, the banning, the problems in our country right now. But if we don't start coming up with solutions, well, we're pretty much going to be, in a big trouble. Right.
And part of the problem is that up until more recently, everything's been kind of an information warfare, right? It's who can get the most information out the quickest, who has the best influencers. And then the game started getting a little slanted more towards one side than the other. And then censorship started, people being banned, all kinds of other things big tech's doing to basically control competition online. And that's basically the essence of the news we're going to cover.
Right.
Is how big tech is getting deeper and deeper into our lives. And as that happens, the more encroachments we face.
Definitely. And that's kind of where it's at. We can talk about the big tech censorship, though, but I feel like a lot of conservatives and people out there are spending so much time on the banning because it's so close to home. When you are somebody out there who's trying to have a social media presence and trying to get information to people on a daily basis, if you get banned, that's going to directly affect you versus someone who doesn't use big tech for that means, right? But one of the things I think that affects everyone, right, across the board is the data mining and the lack of security and privacy that these big tech companies are profiting off of. They're profiting off of your data. So, Gavin, what are ways that they're profiting off of people's data, and how are they using that to control and enslave humanity?
Well, first and foremost, they have to hide the problem. So what they do is they turn the issue into a left-right issue. So you have conservatives preoccupied with deplatforming, being censored. Meanwhile, on the left, they're concerned about privacy issues, security. So what's kind of interesting is that the privacy and the censorship go together because it's actually two aspects of a larger issue. But because they've been able to take this bigger issue and chop it up into little pieces and take each piece and put it into one particular sphere of influence, people aren't seeing the bigger picture. So that's one of the reasons why some of the news stories that we pulled are from both a left perspective or a conservative perspective, because the reality is when you see what's happening on both sides, you realize each side is given only half. So that, for instance, one of my favorite articles to kind of cover is the EFF. Now, the EFF is a privacy online advocacy group. They lean towards the left. They're out of San Francisco. And what's interesting is in this article right here, they're discussing how vaccine passports missteps we should not repeat. So the irony is in this article, they're discussing how, they're very pro-vaccine, because if you're on the left, you're pro-vaccine, right? Because, this is a team sport, right? But the irony is that they're realizing that the digital passport essentially violates privacy. See right here, you can see creates digital inequity and mismanaging user data. So right away, the left, who's concerned about privacy and security, is confronted with, well, if we try to push vaccine passports, right, and kind of force conservatives into a very vicarious political situation, they actually have to give up the ground that they're concerned about, which is privacy. Or
Right.
on the other hand, you have a lot of conservative groups or people offering new technology, right? But then when you look into the technology that's being offered from the conservative side and you go into their privacy agreement, they're trading and selling and giving away your tech just as much
your
as
data,
your
right?
data. I'm sorry, your data as much as anyone else. So the problem is that we're kind of in a particularly interesting technological box, and everyone's thinking within that box. And so the problem is that the solutions are kind of dependent on the problem. The problem is dependent on the solution. So nothing really happens, and there really isn't anything happening other than we're just getting further and further deeper into a deep problem.
Definitely. And I just want to point out, I think it's funny how everyone just accepts the idea of vaccine passports now. Like, do you remember back in February of 2020 when I was doing a live broadcast? I think I had Tori on the show with me, and I was telling you all about vaccine passports and how that was the plan. That was their plan the whole time, and that they already had these software companies. They already had everything ready to go. And so this was something back in February 2020 that I brought you. And at that time period, YouTube actually demonetized my channel because of that video. They said that I was putting out harmful content because of saying that vaccine passports were coming and saying that Wuhan was a bioweapon released in a laboratory. Both of those things have now been vindicated. So I guess the real question is, since YouTube banned me at that time because they might have believed, or at least the common consensus was that that wasn't proven yet. If they ban me for that, shouldn't they then demonetize me or something? I mean, what do they do about that?
Basically, if
they were putting fake news labels on my video at that time.
So essentially, if what the video content is vindicated, shouldn't the channel be remonetized? Which shows you that this has nothing to do with facts or truth or science or any of that. This whole thing's turned into a political game. And so let's go over these articles, because each article really lays this out in a big picture. Let's start with that one.
Okay, so let's talk about during the election time period, NPR actually did a big hit piece on Steve Bannon and on myself, because during the election, I was live streaming. I had like 20,000 people watching live, and I was going over the latest like tweets and videos and news stories that were coming out on the election, like as it was happening, live time. And so we were actually documenting and capturing a lot of tweets and things that were later removed because, you know, censorship. And we can look back on that and reflect on it and see exact points in there that were key that they tried to erase from the internet, just because I was live streaming that. And that's part of the reason I was doing it, is because we know how fast people are putting up content, like people videotaping people coming in and out of the voting facilities with bags or backpacks, and how quickly big tech was trying to cover that. And they were banning people, they were deleting videos, they were covering their tracks any which way they could on trying to steer the narrative. And so I was just trying to document it all with everyone. And then lo and behold, NPR comes out and does this big hit piece on me. And is this not the creepiest thing you've ever seen? This article is so creepy. It's like Big Brother on steroids.
Well, there's this one line in here that I think's pretty important to see. And it says, "This is where the content moderation frontier is right now." So if you read the article, the subtone of the article is essentially that live streaming is dangerous for your average person to have the capability of, because it allows for, according to them, misinformation or disinformation. And there's a word that keeps coming up that, if you really look at it, it's a euphemism for censorship, and that is content moderation, right? Like, we need to moderate your content. And wait, hold on one. But look who's doing this. This is Stanford's Internet Observatory. So when you actually go through this article, what you end up finding out is that Stanford Research Institute essentially is behind studying Millie's content and Steve Bannon's content and other people who, by using live streaming, are able to get around the algorithms and technology they're using currently to flag content. So basically, what you even have people from Harvard Law School
they have like
chiming in on this.
Think tanks and researchers sitting there trying to be like, how do we tackle, how do we censor people like Steve Bannon and Millennial Millie? What do we do to, stop the fake news that they're spreading? Well, that's their line, fake news, which is really just speech they don't like.
And the article is just a cover story for essentially making the argument that we need to just get rid of people's ability to live stream, because since they can't actually curate live content, right? They have a vulnerability for basically information outside the controlled narrative to get out into the public, and going viral outside their search engine optimization they use for their pre-selected content, controlling the narrative. In fact, why don't we go ahead and play that video from the White House press secretary recently?
Right, where we
talking
have her
about
talking about censorship.
Yeah,
okay.
For instance, see the, here's on that right there. There you go. White House, yeah, right there.
Yeah, this is amazing. Truly amazing.
Just make it full screen.
Flagging of disinformation, and then there's also some reporting that we've had that Facebook maybe hasn't been as proactive as the White House would like it to be in response to some of the flagging. So the process of how the flagging works, and then whether Facebook has been amenable to those requests.
Sure. Well, I would say first it shouldn't come as any surprise that we're in regular touch with social media platforms, just like we're in regular touch with all of you and your media outlets about areas where we have concern, information that might be useful, information that may or may not be interesting to your viewers. You all make decisions just like the social media platforms make decisions, even though they're a private sector company and different, but just as an example. So we are regularly making sure social media platforms are aware of the latest narratives dangerous to public health that we and many other Americans.
So you can add whatever fluff you want, but the White House is openly discussing controlling the narrative through the media. And that's unreal, because when I grew up, right, I remember, Project Mockingbird, CIA, NSA, having, people involved in media feeding fake news stories to control the narrative, and what a big deal this was.
Could you imagine if the Trump administration was doing that? Like, we're talking with big tech.
Well, they were accused
what they're
of it.
allowed to talk about.
They were accused of doing that. So the irony is that
when they weren't.
When we went to the White House, do you remember, what did the White House staff people tell us when we were talking with the social media liaison? They kept making a big deal that the campaign and the White House staff have to be separate,
right.
Because
the administration, the staff has to be separate from the campaign. They can't be connected. So
you tell me how this current administration can essentially be controlling the narrative, and that's not impacting the potential to control or influence political campaigns. So it's the hypocrisy is one thing, but the fact that they're openly discussing controlling the narrative is mind-blowing. Pull up the article about the federal government working with media to control Americans. Where's that one? I think it's the New York Post right there. Here we go. Yeah, federal government using social media giants to censor Americans. So not only are they flagging content, but if you're a regular, distributor of misinformation or disinformation, as far as they're concerned, they're going to cut you off social media. So at what point, right, you read this and you see what's going on, it's got the Surgeon General involved in here. At what point do they classify, let's say, sharing conspiracy theories, right, a mental disorder, whereby they could actually use some kind of psychological.
Oh yeah, they're already
treatment,
telling
right?
people they're already sending people on Facebook like, are any of your friends doing this? If so, report them. Somebody on Twitter was showing how they were receiving one like, are any of your friends preparing or like prepping? Report them here. So they're already doing that.
And that's Facebook that the press secretary is openly discussing working with. So essentially, what we can assume from information that we shared from Shadowgate is that the government is actually collecting the data from Facebook that Cambridge Analytica was accused of doing.
Right.
But instead of doing it to influence the outcome of election, they're doing it to influence public policy and Americans' access to the ability to interact on social media and communicate.
Right, and we already know that data, like they're literally running all these algorithms, collecting all this data on all these social media platforms, and that is being then sold to these private military industrial complex companies, and those companies are harvesting it. They're using it to plug it into their AI artificial intelligence predictive modeling programs that they have. And these predictive modeling programs are like Minority Report on steroids.
Right. And something needs to be clarified.
Let's show this.
Well, this is the big kahuna. If you remember in Shadowgate 1 and Shadowgate 2, Patrick Berge, who used to work for Dynology, which is the parent company essentially for ClearForce, which is a risk assessment predictive program tool, management tool, that, according to Patrick Berge, was basically modeled after this psychological warfare social media program he helped pioneer. So if you actually think about what you're looking at here, is you've got you've got psychological warfare tools deployed in social media to nudge people into potentially doing foolish behavior. Like, think about the classic programs where you have like FBI handlers managing informants, running honeypots to entrap people, to essentially bust innocent bystanders who are suckers for the honeypot to maintain justification for their expensive security apparatus. Then, on the other hand, you have ClearForce, which is doing the risk assessment to do the cleanup job. So it's sort of like they're controlling both sides. They're helping create the crime that they then have the solution to clean up with. And the reason why we know that's the case is because if you study the psychological warfare weapons for social media, the ShadowNet, which we made several videos and documentaries on, it's clear that that's how you control narrative, is by having what's called you avoid what's called confliction or deconfliction, so that the partial narrative on one side of the argument and the partial narrative on the other side of the argument match, so that you don't have any holes, because the last thing you want is people thinking outside the narrative. Okay?
Right.
So what ClearForce does in a different way is, instead of controlling the narrative, they're controlling who does and who doesn't have work, what isn't considered news. And if you look up here, these are all the companies they have contracts with.
Oh, let me show them.
Yeah. So they're contracted with New York Times, Fox, CNN. And remember
Fox News, like, I know a lot of conservatives, they listen to them, and some of the people like Tucker and Sarah Carter are okay, and they do good reporting. But then we saw how Fox News so quickly turned their back on President Trump during the election when it actually mattered the most. So if you want to know why, well, it's because of who funds it, who controls it. You know,
So,
Big Pharma is one of their big advertisers.
So wrap your head around the following. The ClearForce, whose parent company essentially has a hand in Call of Duty, and it's just a massive data collection predictive program modeling thing built off of psychological warfare weapons that the DoD contracted out that were then commercialized.
It's like
right?
Minority Report in real life.
It's literally Minority Report.
Okay, and what this is so that companies can run your name through this database, and they can tell whether or not they want to hire you or fire you.
But look who's running it. AP, CBS, CNN. So all the major news outlets are working with ClearForce for point-in-time assessment of risk. That means these guys are monitoring everything about their employees in live time, their social media behavior, all the metadata online, their police records, everything, okay? And to kind of really drive this home, let's watch the last part of Shadowgate where we get into that.
Micromanaging this technology on a global scale would require integrating it with artificial intelligence. Imagine artificial intelligence autonomously operating the ShadowNet and ClearForce. Interpol's 2019 publication, Artificial Intelligence and Robotics for Law Enforcement, reveals we are already there. Quote, although films such as Minority Report and RoboCop may not present the most attractive depiction of the future of advanced technologies in
technical difficulties. Just back that up a little bit.
are already there. Quote, although films such as Minority Report and RoboCop may not present the most attractive depiction of the future of advanced technologies in law enforcement, understanding how these technologies can be applied by law enforcement agencies for the safety and security of our global community is of critical importance.
Keep a safe distance of 6 feet from others.
Short from a major PR rollout, there is an international push for autonomous law enforcement to remove the human factor. Several features of the Interpol program indicate that they are using an iteration of ShadowNet and ClearForce technology. This March 2017 United States patent issued to Jim Jones III and ClearForce spells it out. Quote, systems and methods for electronically monitoring humans to determine potential risk. Several diagrams in this patent look identical to the dashboard layout of the ShadowNet. The patent mentions integration with U.S. and international databases, local law enforcement, and individual state databases, all fed into international justice and public safety networks. Full integration of all data, including the Internet of Things, is the objective. A March 2020 Atlantic Council Policy Primer, AI, Society, and Governance, references the 2019 Interpol publication stating, quote, the United Nations Interregional Crime and Justice Research Institute and the International Criminal Police Organization are leading the conversation on autonomous patrol robots, tracking and tracing systems, forecasting tools, predictive policing, and more. The next iteration of the ShadowNet and ClearForce is ready to go. Integration with AI, robots, and the replacement of traditional law enforcement is just around the corner. Given that leftist organizations managed by Momentum, which is behind the defund the police movement, and given that Momentum has been connected to IIA operations, the case can be made that Jones & Co. are running the defund the police influence operation simply because they are in a position to benefit by offering an alternative solution that is already in line with the Green New Deal agenda. We've already seen some of this rolled out with the technocratic response to COVID-19, with autonomous drones, contact tracing apps, nanotech vaccines, and predictive modeling for social distancing and economic shutdowns. Furthermore, this technology is behind the push for police abolition, defunding law enforcement, and replacing it with smart justice, given we have seen IIA ShadowNet technology implemented by the Socialist Democrats and Sunrise Movement, who are using it to push for police abolition. This political movement is deeply connected to the UN, who is partnered with Interpol to corral us into the artificial intelligence and robotics for law enforcement direction.
Okay, so obviously there's a reason why Elon Musk said that AI is the biggest existential threat to humanity that ever existed. It's more dangerous to humans than nukes. That is because AI can be used in so many ways to track and just get inside the brains of to manipulate with propaganda. And that's what we talked about in Shadowgate, was how these systems are being used to push out propaganda in real time, or IIA operations, right? IIA activities in real time to people on social media to try to shape the public's opinion and public mindset. So it's very dangerous. It's a weapon of mind control. These IIA activities and programs like we saw with the ShadowNet.
So in the video is talking about heat maps and people being, using risk assessment to deny people employment. Well, how about denying people service? So here's an interesting story. So Candace Owens says she's denied the ability to get a COVID-19 test because of her politics, and she shares an email essentially establishing that fact, and is just think about it. So
So she said, holy crap, I just received an email from a COVID testing facility that they are refusing to administer a test on me because they don't like my politics. Insane. I'm banned from making sure I don't accidentally spread COVID. Going live with an email on Instagram. So yeah, she's being refused because they don't like her politics. And
but
that's
where
the
are they
whole,
learning about her politics? And where
from social media,
social media.
right?
So notice, going back to the collecting and using social media data for predictive program modeling. I guarantee you somewhere Candace Owens is in a database and she has some kind of a flag whereby she's considered a hostile whatever. And somewhere people, if not already, will be able to discriminate against her because, oh, she's on this target list. We prescribe to a risk assessment predictive program modeling company. Oh, I don't know, ClearForce or maybe a iteration of that. And according to their assessment, there's a 98.6% chance that by her being in our restaurant or our business or our store, it'll create some kind of problem, blah, 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 right? It's basically using technology for justification of discrimination.
Right. And we're seeing how they're exercising their right to discriminate against people, even with saying, oh, you can't come in here unless you're vaccinated. Like what's happening in New York where you have that mandate, the vaccine mandate for the passports. And so where do we draw the line at businesses having the right to refuse service? Because as far as I've known, like usually the argument with, oh, businesses have the right to refuse service has always been, well, there's another business out there offering the same service that you could always go to. But what if you can't? What if it's something where they're the only one providing that service, or even in your immediate area? What if it's a doctor's office or a hospital? I mean, hospitals, we know that right now they say they can't deny anyone service, right? But we're seeing doctors coming on TikTok and online talking about how they're going to refuse to give service or treat or help people if they're not vaccinated. Or some people have been fired from their doctors.
Or how about getting painted into a corner where, oh, in order to go into a facility, you have to have proof of vaccination. And let's say you did get vaccinated, but let's say you had an adverse reaction and you spoke out against it, and Facebook fact-checked you and said, you didn't have an adverse reaction. That's fake news. So all of a sudden, for whatever reason, you're unable to get the app, right? Let's say you got banned from the App Store or whatever, right? You can't get the app. So you can't get in even though you're vaccinated because you can't get the app because they were able to ban you. And if you really think about these things, we're entering a time where these things are going to give everyone the excuse so that there's people dying and starving, completely cut out of being able to interact in any way with others, or being able to have employment, or being able to have money to buy things because they've been cut from payment processors, or banks have canceled their accounts.
Like PayPal, it canceled me.
Exactly.
PayPal gave me a notice that they have basically canceled my account right after the New York Times did a hit piece on me and said that I was an extremist. And they pointed out, oh, and she sells merchandise on her website and yada yada, and PayPal. Next thing you know, PayPal said that they can't allow me to have an account because I do or say things that go against their terms and conditions. And if you look in there, they've got like hate speech and all this other nonsense in there, which is just a way to kind of justify censorship, because I don't talk about hate speech. I don't say anything bad or racist, but they use that to justify censorship.
And then, so look at this article in light of that.
Yeah, GoDaddy stops service for Texas anti-abortion group's whistleblower website. So the group that was able to get that bill passed in Texas, which protects unborn babies up until or after 6 weeks, that group was being targeted with censorship and by GoDaddy, which is just bizarre, right? The bill was passed. It's law, right? So how do they then have justification to ban this group? It's just absurd.
So look at what we have so far. We've got someone being denied service at a physical location. We've got a website being pulled. And what was the other one that we covered? Well, we've got you getting banned off of payment processors and social media platforms. So as you can see, slowly but surely, they're creating like an electronic fence around us through the devices, through the software, through all of it, including the back doors that gives the intelligence communities, which like we learned through Snowden and also in Shadowgate, the ability to collect massive amounts of data. And what do they use it for? For predictive modeling, so that they can figure out how do we influence society to get people to do what we want, and how do we then isolate people that won't go along with the program and sequester them so that they don't exist anymore.
Right. And they use that predictive modeling to be able to predict who was going to vote in which way, in which area. Because remember, it's all, you have Facebook, you have these social medias on your phone. It's telling them where you're at, your location, where they can tell where you live. Open up your phone. Like I have an iPhone here, and it will tell me in my phone what my home is because it knows, because I'm there most of the time, right? So they know your locations, and they use that information to then go, well, how many of these people in the 2020 election are likely to vote for Trump? How many are likely to vote for Biden? How many are likely to not vote at all because they don't actually engage in anything political on their devices? And then they use that information to then know, well, how many fake ballots do we need? How many, what do we need in this county? What do we need in that county? What do we need in that county? So this information that they're collecting, it's worth billions and billions of dollars. I mean, they can do so much with it. It's scary. It really is scary.
People think, oh, they're spying on me, seeing me naked in the shower. That's not what they care about. They're more concerned about they don't even care about you naked in the shower. It's what shampoo's in their shower. What toothpaste are they using? They want the data because then that information can be aggregated, bundled, and sold to PR companies, advertising agencies, political campaign organizations, intelligence agencies, the government, you name it, because it's all about the data. Now this I find extremely ironic, because you have on one hand GoDaddy removing the website of a pro-life group, and now you have the EFF that's supposedly, a proponent of free speech, saying that the law that essentially created the 6 weeks abortion ban in Texas, that it'll have a devastating effect on free speech. So if you really look at it, we're in a war. We're in an information war, like straight up, just like Alex Jones has been saying forever. The problem is that this information war is starting the climax where it's actually becoming a technological hardware war.
That's right.
Because
that is the next battlefront. They're already censoring us off of their websites, off of their social media platforms. Some of us are being censored entirely from having apps or whatever, like on the Apple Store. But think about it this way. The Apple Store, for example, if they can tell you can't have an app, what's to say they can't tell you can't have an Apple ID? And next thing you know, you can't even use any Apple products. And maybe their biometrics or looking at your eyes with their retina scanners won't work for you.
No, exactly.
We don't know how far this is going to go. Speaking of the retina scanner, did we have the image up for them to show or no?
Let me get it.
Because there's this really creepy image, okay? And it just talks about all the different things that they can do with the retina scanning information that they collect from you. So most people think, oh, look, it's got a retina scanner. They're just getting my biometrics. No, they're getting so much more than that. That's what's really creepy. They're getting like your psychological, emotional states. I mean, they can tell if you have depression or PTSD or anything like that. And who are they reporting that to, right? They can tell if you have different health ailments or health problems. They can tell what you're interested in based on looking at your eye movements, how fast your eyes are moving, where your eyes are tracking. All that information they can just get from the retina scanning capabilities in these cameras on our devices is truly alarming. It's truly alarming. Well, I guess it looks like we don't have that image, but I pretty much went over what most of that had on there.
Well, there's even stuff in your phone that they claim they can tell your sexual persuasion just based on the way you walk from the swish of your phone in your pocket. It's amazing. No,
ridiculous.
For real. Look it
Oh
up.
my gosh.
What's absolutely mind-blowing.
You don't want to know what just went through my head.
What's absolutely mind-blowing is how much we take for granted what these things actually are capable of.
Right.
Like, for instance, you remember when we were at Rubio's or wherever it was? This was back in like 2014, and they had those kiosks on the desk where instead of actually having a waiter or waitress come up and take your order, they had a little device on the counter, and you'd enter the information, had a camera and stuff. And you remember when we looked it up, that was actually a nautical device that had all this crazy technical capability.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then we called the company that was actually manufacturing it, and they were telling us, oh, don't worry, the software in that device doesn't access those features. Really? Well, you come forward now, and we were told that only to then find out they were lying to us. So what it boils down to is that just every day there's more and more examples of how we've allowed ourselves to get painted into a technological cul-de-sac.
Well, here's the thing, okay? The advancement of technology is going to happen, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. People are always going to be wanting new tech, and tech can be used in many ways to set humanity free. It can be used to save people's lives and help people, and there's a lot of good that can come of it, okay? I don't have to give you a bunch of different anecdotal evidence or stories per se, but use your imagination. There's many great things about technology. What we have to determine right now as human beings is, do we want to be enslaved by technology? Because the evil people, the powerful people out there, the billionaires like Bill Gates and others, they want to use that technology to enslave us. So the only way we break free is by joining into the tech war and creating our own technology to ensure that we are keeping our own data private, we're having our rights protected, and we're not becoming enslaved by the technocrats, the tech haves and the tech knots. We don't want to be the tech knots.
Well, and here's another related story. First Energy locks online accounts. Users asked to reset password after automated attempt to hack customers' accounts. So I got a notification from our power company that their accounts were hacked. And so they locked us all out, and we're unable to, use our online service. So not only is there issues of social media and censorship and being banned, not only is there issues of security and privacy, but you have the same issues with your power company. And so here's what's interesting is...
So for context,
well, that's what I was going to put
several times when I've been live streaming, like I was doing an interview with Patrick Berge, right? Mysteriously, my internet will just literally shut off. I've had the power actually shut off in our house, where literally we have an entire power outage. And it's in the beginning when you first have it happen, you're like, oh, that, you don't even think anything of it. Oh, it's just a power outage. Oh, the internet's just down. But then when it's every time, like consecutively, like why is it when I'm on the live stream on a show with Patrick Berge or certain people, I have my internet interrupted, or if I'm trying to do certain things, it's interrupted, or my power is shut down. So like you start to wonder, well, is there something else going on here? And then when you look into it, you see, okay, they actually have a lot of control there in the ability
the reason why
shut you down.
The reason why I brought up the energy hack is essentially this goes more towards that our infrastructure's not secure. Okay? So what I was trying to say is, so we've got all the social media issues, right?
Right.
What I'm trying to get at is, as you look around all these problems we've been discussing with all these various news articles, there's a common theme. And that is our internet has security issues. It has privacy issues. People are trying to control who does and who does not have access to it. So the technological war that we're going into with the information war is multifaceted and multi-layered. And all these things have to be taken into consideration, because what good is creating a social media website or trying to find some new alternative if it's easily accessible through hacking, right?
Right.
So
Definitely. I mean, there are certain protections, though, around public utilities. Like, they can't just shut your power off. That would be illegal. So there are certain rights that people have. I mean, obviously, for people that are not paying their bills, they
Right.
shut your power off. But they can't just choose, like, hey, Candace Owens, we don't like that you're conservative. We're cutting off your power. They can't do that yet. I mean, who knows in this day and age? They're doing things that most people never would have thought they would have done. Like, even these mask mandates and the vaccine mandates are all insane, and they are violations of our rights. Violations of the Nuremberg Code.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we didn't think we'd see that, but here we are, you know. So one of the things that's interesting as well is we're seeing a lot of other conservatives coming out with, I guess you could say, phones or
well, there's solutions. They're attempts at
websites,
solutions,
social media
yeah.
websites. And what's interesting here is I feel like, from what I've seen, we've been doing this, we've been investigating this and looking into it and starting our project since a couple years ago, back in 2018, when the censorship first started up, because we saw the writing on the wall, right? We saw what was coming. We saw, okay, Alex Jones is the canary in the coal mine. I think most people didn't take it that serious because they thought, oh, well, he's just so eccentric and he's so, you know, just in your face that, okay, whatever, right? But no, now we're to the point where they're banning the president. They're banning congressional candidates. They're banning just everyday people and doing all this really weird, creepy stuff. So we see all these conservatives, like, coming kind of late to the party. Like, hey, we're going to come out with something. We're going to come out with a social media network, or we're going to come out with some
Right.
phone,
How
like
many-
the Freedom Phone.
How many conservative
Right.
social media networks have popped up in the past 6 to 8 months?
A lot. And
Right.
in my opinion, a lot of them seem very rushed. Like, they're just kind of rushing to get something out there, which I think is an instinct because people need a solution, right? We're being attacked right now. But some of these aren't really real solutions. And what it boils down to is, well, we don't really know who's funding a lot of these. And Getter, the new social media site, which was supposedly supposed to be for conservatives, but, you know, it's out there now banning people. Apparently, it banned Roger Stone. So this was a supposed right-wing site, Getter, and it backtracked on their no censorship rule when it banned Roger Stone. So you have this, I guess, this temptation amongst even people on the right or conservative side to censor people, which I find very concerning. Very concerning. I don't know if it's just their own little, like, beef that they have with each other, but all in all, it's hypocritical and it's wrong. I think if you're going to put out there that you're a platform for free speech, that you are going to stand by that and that you are going to follow through with that. And I know that's what we're planning to do with Quicks, 1,000%. Any and everyone that's on board on our project pretty much has to be on the same level with protecting free speech. That's, like, the number one thing. Free speech is king.
Well, they don't even have a choice, because in all intent purposes, the Quicks Universal Media Box is kind of a utility. It's a tool. It's not a platform. It's nothing. It's not a website. It isn't anything like that's out there. So it's kind of hard to describe without describing it itself. And so one of the things we sought to do was make censorship sort of obsolete in a sense that, well, why would they justify censoring, right? Oh, well, the advertisers, right? Okay, well, you make it so that advertising doesn't have that issue. Or, oh, this guy, he talks, he says offensive content. Okay, how about a rating system where offensive content could be put in its own sandbox where people that want to see that can? There's always a solution, and it almost seems like a lot of the problems arose because they didn't foresee the political issues that would come by giving people freedom. And so the knee-jerk reaction is, well, let's just start taking all these freedoms away, which is ridiculous when the real answer is actually more freedom, but freedom to have more control over your own personal choice. Like, for instance, on Quicks, why would you care whether there's conservative or liberal or progressive or anarchist or whatever content?
Yeah, you choose what you watch.
It's like, oh, that because that's like saying who should and shouldn't have a computer or who should and shouldn't have a telephone. Like, Quicks has been brought to that level where it's a thing that what's interesting about Quicks?
It's like like having apps on your phone.
Well,
you can choose what apps you want to put on your phone, right?
What Quicks does, one thing that's neat is it separates networks. So instead of interfacing with the internet as a web, it actually has everything kind of compartmentalized and put in its own little area and then aggregated together so that you're kind of going over each network separately, not the whole thing as one.
Right.
And so what's interesting about that is you can pick and choose which networks you want content from. So because of that capability, there's no reason to censor anyone unless, of course, they're doing something illegal, and that's a whole different discussion. But as far as political content, offensive content, the concept of censorship doesn't make sense in the context of what Quicks is.
Right.
It really doesn't.
All right. So for those of you guys who don't know what Quicks is yet, basically, I've shifted a lot of my focus away from just reporting the news to you guys onto Quicks, because I feel that the likelihood that I will be able to exist for much longer on many of these social media platforms is not very high. Especially if I want to just speak freely to you guys, which that's really the only way I like to speak and feel comfortable speaking. So to come on to YouTube or any of these other sites and have to self-censor just feels so wrong to me in many ways, and that's why I kind of am not as active on there. But I'm working with Gavin and many talented programmers, developers, some of the brightest tech minds, literally. Like, some of the people we've had conversations with for development are insane. Okay, so we're working with patriots that love America, that don't want censorship, that see the threat towards humanity that big tech is posing. And we're trying to come up with a solution, because if we don't, who's going to? Right? And many of these other solutions out there aren't really solutions. They're like things that people just tried to rush out, and they didn't foresee and think through all the different ways that they're going to come at us and all the best ways to mitigate and deal with many of these situations. Like, for example, what you were talking about with, oh, well, the advertisers might have pressured. We don't know. We don't know if Getter has advertisers. Maybe the advertisers were pressuring them to kick Roger Stone off. We don't know what the full situation is. But what we do know is that with Quicks, we've already thought all of this out. We've already planned everything out to where we're not going to have the same problems that other people are.
And when we say we thought this out, not Millie and I thought this out. Quicks is a corporation. There's many people involved. Not a lot of people, but there's a good maybe 10 solid people involved with Quicks. Probably 4 key people.
And then that's not
experts-
talking about the
No.
tech developers and
But, I mean,
the tech developers and
But, I mean, 4 key people, like one key person in the development who he's actually had a team of up to 12 people working directly under him. Then we have a manufacturing director,
Right.
if you will, who's making sure that we're getting the best components we can, etc. So when we say we actually mean Quix is in the entity we.
definitely. So I want to play the video we have, the promo video we have for Quix, so some of you guys can get an idea of it. And then I'm going to be looking in the comments on my YouTube as well if you guys have any questions that you guys would like us to answer. So we're kind of going to close out here with a little bit of a Quix Q&A, and we're going to show you guys some more interesting stuff on Quix, and just hopefully be able to answer some of your questions. So we'll be right back after this video.
We have become dependent on a corrupted, unsecure network, the so-called World Wide Web. This is not the intergalactic computer network we were promised. The web makes us vulnerable to hacking, tracking, any form of digital attack. It's easily gamed, misused, and even abused. Censorship, cancel culture, and deplatforming are symptoms of a larger problem. We're stuck in technological cul-de-sacs controlled by big tech, whose interests take precedence over ours. Their technology is built around conditioning and addiction, control and domination. However, it doesn't have to be this way. Our solution is the Quantum User Experience. QUX, or Quix, is your portal to a new digital universe. When you join Quix, you have unlimited access to whatever content you want. You can live stream, upload your own videos, audio, music, images, post and listen to podcasts. Quix even allows you to use Android apps and games. You deserve the online experience you want to have. Create collections or share new content with your family, community, or the world. You can pull content from other websites and platforms to Quix easily, or you can upload directly to Quix. Quix isn't a publisher, it's an interface where anyone can publish and everyone can control their own digital experience. You can monetize your viral creations. Quix pays content creators double what other platforms offer, with affiliate codes and other forms of monetization. Or just lean back and enjoy Quix.
Someone asked, does Quix use Beta blockchain?
So let me discuss the security features.
Okay. All right, so that is the very cool Quix promo video. So if you guys have any questions, you can ask them in the YouTube chat, and I will be kind of writing them down while Gavin is actually going to be going over some of the security features. He has a very interesting analogy to show you guys on the security features so that you guys can kind of wrap your heads around the security features on Quix and how that all works.
Okay, well, one thing, let me pull this up real quick. Let's see, where is it? Give me 1 second here. Okay. One thing you need to... Wow, okay. Sorry about that. All right. So if you really stop and think about it, the World Wide Web has evolved into kind of an interesting creature with 4 elements, if you will. One, the reliance on an unsecured network, hardware with backdoors and software that makes the backdoors accessible over the unsecure network, collecting and aggregation of user data through the backdoors, through the software over the unsecure network, and predictive modeling that uses this data essentially to control the general public. So if you stop and think about it, you have an open system where all the information is freely accessible. So security and privacy are literally nearly impossible, right? So the solutions that we get are blockchain, cryptocurrencies, and peer-to-peer networking. The only problem with those solutions is that they're within the paradigm of big data. For instance, blockchain is essentially big data because you're creating a chain of all the information associated with it. And again, this is a simplification, and cryptocurrency is essentially monetizing a blockchain. So as the blockchain grows, the more and more storage you're going to need. So then storage becomes an issue, and it's not really a viable solution. In my opinion, if blockchain, cryptocurrency, and peer-to-peer within the current technology were viable solutions, we'd see more of it. For instance, your peer-to-peer network can't be more secure than the hardware you're using. We already know that there's software in the hardware that creates backdoors, especially with Microsoft or Google Android. Not so much with Apple, but we don't know, because Apple may have backdoors for inside there. But nonetheless, these are real issues. So what we need to do is we need to create a new way of thinking about the internet so that we can have alternative solutions. So one, instead of an unsecure network, how about a secure network? How about a private intranet that's secure? And instead of having hardware with backdoors, one, good luck with backdoors, because some of those backdoors are going to be nanotech. Good luck building any kind of electronics where you're not getting a couple of parts out of China, parts out of Japan, Taiwan, South Korea, like processors and microchips. Some of these things, even though we ourselves have looked into manufacturing and have some capability to do some in-house manufacturing, there will always be the need to get overseas parts. So, doing forensic analysis for backdoors is an exhaustive and expensive process. However, for backdoors to work, the software and the operating system have to make those backdoors not only accessible, but you also have to have an ability to get in online. So one way of shoring up backdoors is just having software and operating system that doesn't make it accessible. The other thing you can do is just not collect data. One thing that's been shocking to a lot of the people that we've spoken to about the development of Quix is that we're not interested in collecting data. In fact, we're going to purge our data logs after certain time periods. And then not having all that data stored, that becomes another layer of security. One of our justifications for not storing people's user data is there could be medical information in there. So if we're storing it or making it possibly be shared, we're violating our own policy with our users. We're essentially going to be signing an NDA with our users to protect their information. Therefore, collecting it makes it problematic, where if we don't collect it, not problematic. So Quix is built around an entire different way of looking at this. So blockchain, crypto, peer-to-peer within existing hardware isn't the solution we offer. It's something completely different. And as we roll it out, as the test program begins and finishes. A lot more of that will come forward. As far as the test program goes, there's probably a bunch of you watching right now that are in the test program. I just want to let you know that there's an additional security feature that we've added to our authentication, which is extremely unique, something that no one else is doing. So that kind of delayed us a little bit, but when you get your box, there's going to be an extra layer of authentication that makes it so that when you're on Quix, you have a very secure environment. So I guess, would you like to say anything, Millie, while I
Sure.
pull up?
Well, I have some questions here. People are kind of flooding the chat with questions,
Sure.
and I've been trying to write them down. So somebody asked, did you make your own satellites too?
Well, you know what's funny about that? Was it 2 years ago? We had an opportunity to actually build out a satellite and have it launched. I think, can't remember who was going to carry the payload. It was going to be about $50,000 for the satellite itself. I think $100,000 to launch it.
Right.
We approached someone about that, but
Didn't quite
didn't
happen,
quite
right?
happen yet. But that's a funny question.
Okay, so is it possible to explain the purpose of Quix in 2 sentences in layman's terms? I'll let you do it. You give your version of it, and then I'll give my version of it.
2 sentences in layman's terms.
Yeah.
Why don't you have a whack at it? I'm a wordy person. I tend to.
In 2 sentences. Okay, so the purpose of Quix is to give people an electronic device that ensures their privacy and security while allowing them to connect and communicate with others in a private way, and
Where they have full control.
right, where they have full control over the content that they want to watch and the ads or the products or whatever they want to see, and that they can this is way over 2 sentences.
Right. Well, here's
Okay, so it's basically, while protecting your privacy and security, giving you the ability to watch any content you want to watch, produce any content you want to produce, sell any product you want to sell, advertise any product you want to sell, and allow you to privately communicate with video calls, phone calls, private messages, allowing you to translate USD into Quix tokens to make encrypted purchases, and basically give you freedom and freedom from being spied on and being censored. So that's my
freedom from being spied on and censored.
right.
In a secure environment that allows you to live stream, share and exchange content, communicate over your television with others. What else?
Create content, right?
Buy and sell things because it has a merchant capability. One thing that's kind of neat that I could show you guys was the actual live stream test I did. So this is exclusive. No one's seen this.
You can also watch any other apps that you want to sideload onto Quix, because people, I think a lot of you guys have noticed the circular thumbnails in the videos, but those are the portals.
Hold on with the side loading thing.
Right.
Don't get into that.
Okay.
One thing we have mentioned before, that Quix allow you to use other apps. That's true. However, what we're finding is that we can give you guys the ability to use Google Play. Problem is, you've now basically ruined some of the security features that you bought when you got Quix. So the question is, do we really want to have access to all the Android apps in there, or would we rather wait a couple months and have the portal developed so that it actually can be an application? You know what I mean? So it's a toss-up.
I say give them the option at the end of the day. All right, so let's go ahead and show them this video you want to see.
All right, so this is essentially me testing the I'm going to live stream on Quicks. You can see it right here. Here's my little Quicks box. Okay, I've turned it on. So here I am. You can see a bunch of the portals that I've created of just about any kind of content you can imagine. Okay, this is all content being pulled legally from websites from where I can grab it. This is a portal I made with my own content for testing purposes. And what I'm about to do is test going live. So this is me live on Quicks using my phone. So as you can see, when we have Quicks, you're going to have the ability to live stream just like you do on any other platform. So I just thought I'd share that.
Okay, so let's go to another question. Somebody says, do we have to pay for internet connection?
Yes.
Right. In the beginning, with these devices we have here, where you plug it into your TV, you use wireless, connection to connect to whatever internet you want to connect to. But I think what they're actually probably getting at is there's been a lot of talk about some of the things that we have been developing and been working on in the background with Quicks that might not necessarily come out as soon as some might hope,
right.
But that's in the works.
There's been, let's say, some coffee table discussions about some of what we have in development. And one of them, Patrick Berge has spoken about, and we've spoken with him about, essentially, what are the potentials in creating a national public internet, or national public intranet, rather, where everyone would have access to the internet free. And in that situation, you wouldn't be paying for the internet. You would just essentially have to be able to log on. But that's something in development, and we're not launching right out of the gate the ability to have access to the internet for free.
We're not going to say anything because we don't want to say too much. There's a lot of copycats out there. You have to protect your ideas and your stuff you're working on. But theoretically, could a Quicks box be used to be an internet device?
Well, yeah.
Okay. So let's just keep it at that. Okay.
Well, no, there's stuff. When we say, one, we're not using the word quantum as a buzzword. There are aspects, one, all electronics, all modern electronics, especially computers, take into account quantum field theory. There's no way around that. So to say that it's silly to be using the term quantum for quantum user experience, that's a misnomer, because essentially these electronics are already quantum mechanical by their very nature. Next, there is something that we are working on that is being developed that is a literal alternative to quote-unquote the internet. Okay, I'm going to be vague about that. And it's extremely quantum in nature. In fact, Millie, have you been party to any discussions of this technology with people who are technologically well-accomplished people?
And some of these people have big names, which I'm not going to say. I'm going to keep them private at this time. Some of them have pretty big names that you guys would know. And they're very talented, skilled, I guess, techies and developers and programmers, coders. I don't know. I'm not the most tech savvy person out there, but from what I've heard in these conversations, what we've developed here pretty much is sending shivers down their spine because it's completely capable. So let's just leave it at that.
You could think of it in some ways as a third rail. Definitely. Right. And I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, so somebody asks, when can test pilots log into Quicks.tv?
Okay, great question. All right. I would say about a week. We're about a week away from that. We could do it sooner, but it took a lot longer to get 1,000 people's shipping and email address verified. If you stop and think about it, one of the challenges in this test pilot program is we actually have to migrate 1,000 people into a private secure network and not have someone say this thing's not secure and show a security problem, or I don't know. Basically, we're making sure that when we migrate everybody in there that it's seamless, because we don't want bugs in some of the security features to be the issue that the test pilots are exposed to, more along the lines of how's the UI, how's the UX, what do you think of the features,
So
that type of thing.
Probably a week or so.
About a week, I'd
Okay.
say. Yeah.
All right. So
And all that'll be, just so you know, is just you going to quicks.tv and logging in with the email address that we have on file. So the campaign, the Indiegogo campaign, is going to go for, I think, 2 more days. Let's go ahead and pull this up real quick. We've got 2 more days of the Indiegogo campaign. Okay? So those of you who are in the test pilot program, I would suggest any changes you want to make to your email or shipping address, you better make it like yesterday. But you've got 2 days before I'm basically just going to go with the information we have. And so again, like I said, about a week before we log in, but we're going to make it so that when you put your email that we have into the user area to log in, that we're going to have that on file so that only test pilots are getting in to the user dashboard. So real quick, any of you that might be interested in Quicks and wanting to get an advanced pre-release of the Quicks Universal Media Box, we have quite a few available spots left. I highly suggest getting on that. We're expected to have it available for December. So that's our target. Also, here's another thing to get your names in the credits. In the actual settings of the Quicks box itself, we're going to have an area where people will have their name forever listed in our credits for having helped make Quicks happen. So my analogy is, would you spend $1,000 to put your name on the Declaration of Independence? Well, why not, take a chance like our founding fathers did and put your name on a digital Declaration of Independence? So that's essentially the fundraiser there. So there's 2 days. So again, if you're in the test pilot program, please make sure we have your updated mailing and shipping address.
all right, so let's look at another question here. It says, if I have an iPhone or a MacBook, can I utilize Quicks? Can I use Quicks on my phone?
Okay, there is going to be an app that you can access Quicks if you have a login. There is going to be an app to use. So that will be rolled out at some point to be tested. As far as right now, what you need in order to use Quicks is some type of a monitor or television that has an HDMI port. If you do not have an HDMI port, there are some adapters. So please email the Quicks tech team if you have any.
Quicks.tv. If you're somebody who's just going to want to be a user, where you just want to kind of lean back and watch things, then you can just mostly do everything from your Quicks box. Okay, so let's go to another one. Somebody asked about, can they run software on it? Do I have to worry about storage?
You don't have to worry about storage. However, you do have the ability to access external storage. So for instance, one of the features is we have portals. The way to look at it as a portal is where you can put all your preferred content or make content. It's an area where you can create things. In your portal, sorry, I'm losing track. What was the question again?
It's about storage. Do they have to worry about
in the
storage?
portal, there's going to be the ability to have private portal-to-portal content sharing. And in the private feature, you can actually share content from the storage device. Now, One thing I should say about HDMIs real quickly. Someone asked, if I plug the Quicks box into a smart TV, is the smart TV application, the operating system in the smart television, going to actually be able to monitor my activities on Quicks? And the answer is yes and no. The best way to get around the smart TV tracking your activity on Quicks is simple. Just disconnect the smart TV from the Wi-Fi so that only the Quicks box is connected to the Wi-Fi. So that you're just using the television parasitically as just a screen.
Right. So you could just turn off the Wi-Fi from the TV, but have the Wi-Fi on with the Quicks box.
Correct.
Perfect. Okay, so somebody asked, can it be used in other countries?
Yeah, but we're not selling it to other countries yet because we want to make sure we have all of those I's dotted and T's crossed. For instance, language issues.
Somebody said, is Quicks just a portal that guarantees that the apps inside the portal won't get your privacy and information?
Okay, that's a great question. And what I want to do is I want to segue into an analogy of a fortified castle as a way to kind of understand Quicks. All right, if you look at this image here, out here where I've got my mouse, okay, outside the castle, think of that as the World Wide Web, the Wild West, the unsecure network, okay? This mode here, you could think of that as like the HTTPS security feature on the website. And then, so yeah, here's your moat. And then this bridge over the moat to where there's a gate, you could think of that as the login and password into a secured environment. So if we actually go look at the Quicks.tv website, you can see that it's got HTTPS and the login. Okay, so that is basic security, and that's something that this analogy works well for. Once you're inside this area, you're not fully inside, but you're kind of inside a walled area. In this walled area, that's where you have the ability to pull content and scrape it from the internet and create portals, or select the ability to go live and live stream. But in this secured environment, just outside the internet, but protected by HTTPS, login password, multi-factor verification, and 256-bit encryption, you're in an extremely secure area. This is where you could use your credit card or whatever to basically exchange money to convert money into virtual tokens.
To engage in basically commerce or the free market.
Exactly.
In a secure way, everything on the internet is not entirely secure, right? Like, people put up protections and whatnot, but hackers can find a way into most anything.
And there's other things that we're going to do that no one else is. For instance, when you get the Quicks box, the operating system is not in it. Rather, there's something that requires you to first verify and authenticate the box, and then it's installed after it's been verified. So this is to avoid spoofing.
Right.
Also, the way we have these series of walled gardens, if you will, is also a way to avoid man-in-the-middle attack, because the only way to get into the Quicks network is through one of the Quicks boxes, and only through a box being verified can it get into the network, and only by you having multi-factor verification can you even authenticate the box. So by the time you're actually in this area, let me pull it up. By the time you're in the I guess the inner area
in here.
Yeah, you're now protected by 256-bit end-to-end encryption, and you're completely walled off from.
Would you say it's similar to like Nipper Sipper?
Well, technically this is coming from experts in military networks, things like that, and it's more than one. Patrick would concur. This outer area of the Quicks network you could think of as sort of a civilian version of Nipper, and then this inner area as a civilian version of Sipper. But then what's extreme, which is used for top secret and classified communication, by the way. What's interesting about this is that because we have private features that don't have any information stored locally, there's an extra additional layer of security there that goes even slightly above Sipper if we went and had our boxes certified.
So I've got a couple people asking questions here if you're willing to take some.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the more questions, the better.
Someone said, so do we use it like a TV space, or can we play multiple types of games?
It does. It will have the gaming capability. But right now, as we're testing all the different features, right now we're just going over the video, audio, live streaming, and text capabilities, messaging capabilities.
But the hardware components are all there for gaming.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Which we're going to be working out with the software developers.
Yes.
All right. How resistant is it from a CME?
A CME, that's a... What is a CME?
I don't know. We'll have to refer that to our tech guy,
hold on.
Nate.
Let's see, CME.
Someone said, let me see. Is it decentralized?
What did it say? A what? A CME?
CME.
Do they mean that or an EMP?
They might have meant, I don't know.
Yeah. What is...
Well, we'll
re-ask the question. Yeah.
It says, how resistant is it from a CME?
They probably meant EMP.
Well, if they didn't, we'll figure it out. We'll ask our tech expert, our programmer, Nate, and we'll get back to you guys on that. All right, so somebody asked, is it decentralized?
That's a great question. If you actually think about it, the problem with big tech is it's centralized around a bunch of monopolies. But then when they start censoring everybody and everyone has to go out to all these different platforms, you now have everyone fractured and spread across a million platforms. You've got to remember a ton of login, passwords, etc. Now you've got more vulnerabilities because you're constantly having to log in, save passwords, remember, what a nightmare, right? Juggling between them. And then if there's a subscription fee associated with these different platforms, now you're having to spend money to keep track of everything. So it's just a total pain in the ass. What we've done by making it so that in your portal generator, you can essentially pull content off of any open website like YouTube or BitChute per se, is that we're taking decentralized content and bringing it back together in a centralized form, but where the person who created the portal is who created that centralization. So someone can make a portal, let's say, that's got a bunch of conservative content centralized, right? Well, someone else could make a leftist centralized portal. So it's really, it allows the user to centralize the content they want in the way they want it centralized, I guess.
Right. Like, so what I could do when I create my own portal, right? The Millennial Millie portal, is I could plug in like my URL code for my YouTube channel into my portal through the portal generator, and it'll pull all my YouTube stuff if I'm not banned, right? It'll pull all my YouTube stuff into it, right? And that could be there for people to watch on my channel. But I can also directly just upload to Quicks. I could directly live stream onto Quicks, and I can do so by the app on the phone. So like if you have like even an Apple phone or a Google Android phone, we're developing an app so that you guys can live stream and you guys can be doing stuff to directly send video to your portal if you're a creator like me. I could put up my own photos on my portal. I could put up music. I could put up podcasts, even video podcasts. I could put up merchandise if I wanted to sell some hats or shirts. I could put all that stuff on my portal. I can put stuff from my other social media.
You can make it subscription based,
right.
Or you could use advertising. Either way.
And what's cool about it is, you know, just for me to be able to pull all that content from the different social media sites and from and then also directly upload onto Quix, it kind of allows people to just go to that one spot to find me. Then if I get banned from any of those various social media sites, it doesn't really matter too much because you guys can always still find me on my portal, right?
Because, and she can just swap out the URL to wherever else she's going to host it. So essentially, think of some of your favorite content creators who are constantly being banned and you're having to follow them to different channels all the time.
Or different social media platforms.
Yeah, they themselves could have to do that while you continually just go to their portal.
Right.
And you wouldn't even know what, you know, is there content on YouTube today or is it on BitChute? I don't know. I'm watching it on Quix.
Right. And they could eventually decide, like, they could decide I just want to host my own video and work with a CDN on my own website and just do my videos through there. Or I could just directly do videos onto Quix. I mean, it's really, it gives you a lot of freedom. And I think because many people are being spread out so far across the internet onto all these various social media sites, I've got content on some social media sites that I don't have on other social media sites. And then if you're not following me on every one of my different social media sites, there's stuff you miss out on. So a cool way of centralizing it is by plugging me as a creator, plugging all that into my portal so that it can be populated. And that's kind of what portals are. I keep looking up over here because we have our TV and it's plugged in right now, but it's kind of off camera. But you guys saw it earlier, the portals and whatnot.
Should I point it?
Yeah, I would think. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it.
Yeah.
Just to show you guys, because one of the ways to discern between the portals and the apps is the portals are round and circular, whereas the apps are going to be square. So, you gotta, like, maneuver the camera. I think somebody asked, is this just a VPN? Okay, so that's one of the things that I constantly am hearing from people, and I think that's just, we've focused a lot on telling you guys about the security and privacy features that many people are just assuming, oh, well, it's just a VPN. No, it's not. It's so much more than a VPN. It has a VPN built into it. That's just one of the features of a Quixbox, is that we built in VPNs because we want to be able to add that layer of protection for you guys. It's so much more than that. And by the way, many VPN services, people pay for monthly. So you're basically like getting a free VPN on your Quixbox and you're not having to pay a monthly subscription. So that's a bonus right there. But as you can see right here in, this is like the home screen for your portals. Like if you were to be browsing and like, oh, look, here's a Fox News portal, which this is just us plugging stuff in, having fun, testing it out. Oh, look, here's a Tucker Carlson page. Oh, let's watch one of Tucker Carlson's reports on his page. So that's just kind of demoing that for you guys. Right there. So one of the cool things is many of these videos here actually were pulled from various social media sites and whatnot. Like, for example, YouTube or Rumble or whatever else. We might have too much going on our internet with us live streaming and trying to stream videos for you guys, but, you know, when we're not streaming, it's usually really fast. But as you can see, portals are round. You can kind of skim through. What's cool about this is, you know, for example, like with Roku, if you were wanting to have an app on Roku, Do you realize how hard that is to get an app created for Roku? You have to go through all of this extensive process of being approved by Roku, and it costs a ton of money to have your app developed out because you have to pay for that, right? Same with an Apple. If you want to get an app developed, you have to pay for that. You have to have tech people to do it for you. Your average person cannot do that. So one of the cool things about Quicks is we've kind of opened that up for everyone with portals. So anyone can create, in essence, a portal, which is similar to an app, right? In that you can plug in all your social media stuff. You can put videos. You can live stream. You can private message with your accounts to one another. You can put your photos and your podcasts and your music. You can do so much on these. You can even sell your own products and merchandise. Okay, so he's just kind of thumbing through this stuff for you guys. There is a login, so you'll have a password and you'll log in. But yeah, I mean, that's just so that you can have multiple user accounts on your Quicks device. So one of the cool features is that you could have a user account on your device for mom and dad, or a user account for your kids, for different people, members in the family, so that everyone can kind of pick and choose their favorite portals on their home screens and have their wallets put in there if they're wanting to make purchases. Or the kids content is like a parent can create a kids account, and the kids account can be limited to only seeing portals that have a G rating or a PG rating, or maybe even a PG-13 rating.
When you create content or add content in the portal generator, you have to give it a rating and a category and all these things. That's actually how we do all of our search functions, is essentially by everyone just putting in categories and keywords and terms like that, so that what we're tracking, if you will, is the words, the information, not who's watching what. Do you get what I'm saying? We could care less who's watching it. If someone puts in the word football, okay, they're going to see videos that have the word football somewhere in their description, right? It's that simple. So with the rating system, when you put content up, you have to rate it. And in doing so, any user account that's locked into a particular rating only has access to content that's been put in that category, that rating.
Right. And so as far as the kids content goes, we are going to be moderating that.
Most strict.
That's going to be moderated as far as, like, if you want to put on there rated G, it needs to be rated G. If the content is violating that, it's just going to get bumped up to a higher rating. That's it.
In fact, that's something we want to do instead of, censoring people for mislabeling their content. We're just going to, if it's flagged, let's say, right? Because there is the capability to flag content.
Right.
But not flag it to ban people. Flag it as in either A, I don't want to see this stuff anymore, or B, someone is putting something illegal on our network.
Right. If somebody tries to put illegal activities.
Like a murder video,
like
live
snuff
streaming
stuff,
a murder, for crying out loud. That would be something to flag that gets pulled, not just recategorized.
Right. The only type of content that's going to be being pulled from Quicks is going to be illegal activity.
Criminal.
Yeah. Like stuff that's, okay, we can't
Someone's
actually
going
have
to jail, yeah.
Right. We can't have that on our server. We can't have that on there. Okay. Let's see if you guys have any more questions about, somebody said ban all porn. I don't even know if we should get in that subject. Okay, so any more questions you guys have? So is this going to be a user-friendly way to centralize content?
Absolutely. That's it. Okay, here's a really good way of thinking about it. There's all these tech-savvy people out there that know how to navigate the world of VPNs and peer-to-peer networks and Tor and all this stuff, right? Well, grandma doesn't know how to do that. But at the same time, grandma has, an email address. She has a credit card. She's going to do things. She deserves all that security as well. My mom has been hacked so many times. She had it where someone was pretending to actually be Apple support, and you could see them going through her computer. So people that aren't that aren't tech savvy, they deserve to have those kind of protections. Also, everyone would like to have a channel on the TV where they could show home videos or photos and share that with family in a way that doesn't have to be exposed to trolling or people pulling family videos that they may not want public, but just within their little thing, but because they don't understand the privacy policies of the social media platform, whatever. Quix is designed it's basically designed to make all of this very easy to do, very user friendly, and to have all kinds of tools simplified.
Okay, somebody said, what did it say? How open is the internet to us on Quix?
Okay, anything from the internet can go in Quix, but technically nothing from inside Quix can go into the internet. So one of our goals is to get enough people on the Quix network that what we're going to end up doing is just mirroring the entire internet to an extent in a particular type of way, so that you would never even have to go outside the Quix network to go to look at the web, kind of like creating a secure membrane through which you can look at the web, but the web can't look back. That makes sense?
Somebody said, is it a portal or a channel or both?
It's both. It's what you want it to be, essentially. Right. Your portal could be nothing more than home videos. Your portal could be a content creator that makes videos like Millie. Your portal could be a store like Amazon that
sells stuff. Like, you could be somebody that just sells, knitted baby clothes, and you could have videos of yourself knitting it. And this is probably not the best example, but it, and you could have on there your little things that you sell, your crocheted stuff that you sell.
It levels the playing field to where both the establishment and the ordinary person are on literally equal playing ground.
Right.
Quix can accommodate the local ice cream shop as much as it can accommodate Netflix or Amazon if they wanted to work with our API.
And that's one of the cool things that we really want to implement and we talk about a lot is because we live in a smallish rural Ohio town, and that's what we chose to live in for our kids, giving them that good old classic American upbringing. And it's a small community, but there's the family up the store that owns the hardware store up the road that owns the hardware store, and there's the family over there that's this or that. And what's cool about what we're implementing with Quix is a lot of local stuff. So like you could receive local advertisements from somebody who might even live down the road, and they happen to be that person that sells those little baby knitted sweaters, or sells maybe even a local handgun store, or like you're gonna see more stuff that's local to you. But really, at the end of the day, you're going to see what you choose to see.
Well, and here's something.
Because that's all about your user choice. Because we've talked about advertisements before, which Quix is going to have advertisements on it. It is how we make it so that the users do not have to pay for the content. There's different models that people choose. One of those models is everyone having to subscribe to every channel, which we didn't really like that mode, although you could do that. We kind of focused more along the lines of advertisements so that the content is free for people to watch.
But at the same time, significantly reducing ad time down to literally like 30 seconds an hour.
Right. Super minimum,
30
way less
seconds
than
an
you see
hour,
on YouTube. And
not a bunch of ads in the middle of the content.
And the thing about YouTube and these other, like, because they use these algorithms that spy on everyone and spy on all your Google searches, they throw all these ads at you with like random stuff that maybe you looked up or searched, and it could either be personal or slightly embarrassing stuff, or it could be stuff that like, oh, I might have Googled something related to that, but I have no intention of buying anything like that, and this is really annoying. So, you know, I think YouTube has a big fail in the way they do their Google has a big failure in the way that they kind of like just spray ads at people of stuff they don't even want to watch. I get sprayed sometimes with like Planned Parenthood ads on videos when I look up Planned Parenthood for, you know, investigative reasons as a journalist, right? Like looking up news stories. And then it's like, I don't want to see this. And there's no likelihood that I would be getting their product from them. So why are they targeting me? Why are they advertising to me? The cool thing about Quicks is users get to choose that. So I could be like a user and be like, I don't ever want to see a Planned Parenthood ad again. Boom. And guess what? I won't ever see that. And I can pick what kind of stuff I do want to see. Say I like to see new like hunting gear. I like to see new Mike Lindell pillows. I like to see, you know, supplements
basically,
or things that I like. I choose it.
Yeah, you choose your ad experience.
Right, which I think is cool because I actually like watching some ads. I like watching some commercials. I know, like the Super Bowl, you sit around and you watch all the cool ads. So, I think that most people, if you think about a product that you actually want to buy, you actually go seek that out on the internet anyway.
What I keep wanting to mention, because you brought up the whole small town thing, is first, we got to think of the whole Internet of Things, smart city initiatives, where basically you have this big push to make cities smart and sustainable, right? Where essentially everything is connected to the internet, and AI systems is regulate and control everything from what you're able to see on social media to what temperature your house is at. And this is a very invasive thing. Something that Quicks is going to do, and we're going to do in our small town here, is what's basically the Quicks Small Town Initiative. And the idea is to go, like she was saying, getting the local businesses, the local events, things on a local basis to take advantage of the advertising dashboard, the merchant's account, the ability to live stream. So theoretically, you could have a pizza parlor sponsoring a t-ball game that's being live streamed, and grandma who can't make it because of COVID restrictions orders a pizza and it's delivered. And it's local businesses and local people having access to these capabilities, not just reserving them for the big guys.
And it's something where, like, you could literally be sitting there watching your TV, and next thing you know, you see an ad for your local pizza place, like, hey, we have this new whatever pizza, and if you order it in the next whatever minutes, you get, 10% off or 20% off, and you click buy, and then boom, it's all done because you've already inputted into a secure device your credit information and your billing and shipping information. So boom, it's that simple. Next thing you know, hour later, pizza guy's at your door. I mean, this is what we're looking at here, and it's really exciting because tech, like I said, tech can be used to make our lives more fun and more convenient. And that's kind of the route we're hoping to go with Quicks. We want to break away from big tech. We want to break away from the military-industrial complex trying to spy and harvest everyone's data and put it into algorithms so they can rig elections, they can control people with Minority Report style programs. I mean, we want to break away from that. And the biggest way to disrupt it, the biggest way to break away from that is to get everyone off of their social media sites, off of their platforms, because their platforms are using all that data. And the bigger the data set, the better they can accurately predict what they're trying to simulate. So if we get a large enough group of people off of their platform onto somewhere else where they can't monitor what the heck we're talking about and what we're doing, we disrupt their predictive models. We disrupt their ability to predict election outcomes, to predict who's likely to, not get vaccinated or who's likely to vote a certain way. I mean, we disrupt that, and I think that's key. So Quix is disruptive technology. Absolutely. It is disruptive, and that's what it's designed to be. It's like we've reverse engineered what they're doing to hurt us and figured out a way to
counter
it.
All right. Well, the battery for the
camera.
The camera's about to die. So that pretty much
right.
wraps
So
it up.
It looks like we're coming to a close here. It's about that time anyway. We've probably been live for quite a while now, and I will be uploading this video. It should be automatically uploading it to YouTube. If you guys came late to the stream and you want to watch through more of the news that we covered and more about Quix, you guys can watch that. It will be up on YouTube. Hopefully it doesn't get banned. But you guys, Quix is the pilot program. It has filled up. It's been sold out. But you can still pre-order the advanced pre-release Quix TV box for $149 USD. Your purchases help support the development of Quix. It helps support free speech
and security and privacy.
Right, and security. So this is the First Amendment. This is the Fourth Amendment in a box. I mean, this is protecting your rights. You're helping support tech that supports your rights at the end of the day. We're going to make this happen, and we're going to make it happen with the people. We're not trying to go to some billionaires that are going to want to control everything and tell us what we can and can't. No, we are going to be supported by the people. It's either we want this or we don't. Either we want freedom, either we want to take humanity into the direction of free and fun with technology and betterment of society, or we can just do nothing, continue to stay on their electronic devices, and all be walked into a trap or off a cliff like a bunch of lemmings. I got sick and tired of reporting the news and seeing all of this coming years in advance. Okay, I was way ahead in 2020 of February with the vaccine passports, and I'm telling you right now, the next shoe to drop, it is coming, folks. They're going to be kicking people off of devices. Who knows? They'll probably be kicking me off from having an iPhone. They'll probably ban my Apple ID. The absolute tech control, tech dominance is coming. I probably won't be on these social media platforms for much longer with the rate it's going, with my demonetizations, my suspensions, my community guideline strikes. Who knows if I'll be on my website? I don't know. But the bottom line is, guys, you will be able to find me on Quix in my portal.
And everyone else.
And everyone else, okay? So we're creating the ark. We're creating the lifeboat that we can jump on now, we can get, and that way we aren't completely blacked out and not able to communicate with each other if they decide to yank the carpet out from underneath all of us and just say, we're just going to go on a massive purge of banning conservatives. This is it, guys. We have to fight the tech war, okay? So I encourage you all to go ahead and look more into Quix, research it on your own. You can read over this Indiegogo page. The beta testing program already filled up very quickly, but we still have these advanced pre-release Quix TV boxes that you can buy. You'll be first in line to get it when it is released, and you will be getting the final edition version, and that is this sleek, wonderful looking device here. So amazing, guys.
We can have freedom from big tech by the end of this year if we really actually want it.
Right.
And that's what it boils down to.
If we, the American people, want to make a difference, we can do so. But if you're continuing to support Apple and Google with their devices and Microsoft with Bill Gates' device, okay, if you're continuing to support these evil people who want to enslave us on their technological devices, it's not going to work out good, right? It's not going to work out good. I'm just saying, I've worked my butt off. Gavin has worked his butt off. We're trying to get a real solution out there to you all.
And just to kind of drive the point home with this, if you look, okay, so here's a competitor product, sort of, right? Cloud TV. You can go on here and see all kinds of content, a lot of right-wing content. You can get Amazon, YouTube, you know, and it's essentially running around the same price as Quix. You can't make your own portals.
Nope.
Right? And there's no security features. But
I probably won't be able to have a channel unless I figure out how to get on there by paying my way or whatever.
And there's a subscription fee, right?
Right.
But whatever. Everyone has their own model. And more power to everybody who's doing something. But what I want to draw your attention to is that even in their privacy policy, they let you know that they're giving your information to third parties, okay? So they're not protecting your data, all right? And then you go to the, InfoWarsPhone.com, and that just redirects you to the sat phone, which that's a good idea. But unfortunately, the particular company they're working with, Snowden, shows that NSA and even more so GCHQ intercept signals. Okay? So that
and you have to pay $100 a month for that sat phone. That's
so it's a cool idea.
That's like you could buy a Quix box every other month at that rate.
So it's a good idea, but it doesn't deal with all the issues, and that's why Quix is extremely unique, because it does deal with all these issues, but in a consumer product that the average person doesn't even really need to know all that stuff, because really they're just going to get their remote, use the voice control, and just have a nice, relaxed user experience. So that's basically it. Check out the website. Check out the fundraiser. I highly recommend getting one of these, because you'll be one of the first few thousand to get in there making portals. If you're a social media influencer, this is like getting in on YouTube at the very beginning. So, just saying.
Yep, you're going to want to get in there grandfathered in on some good channel numbers.
So anyway, thank you for watching the live stream. Appreciate all of you. All you test pilots that are watching this live stream, we can't wait to start the test pilot program. We're looking at somewhere around a week. You guys will be logging in and starting to create portals. So
awesome. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for following along with us on this broadcast. I will hopefully be doing live streams again in the near future. We'll see if YouTube bans me for this video or not. We will see. I hope not, but this is why we're doing Quix at the end of the day, guys. The censorship is real. It's a real growing problem. People are getting banned off of platforms left and right. I'm glad my suspension from Twitter ended, but I was suspended for a week for pretty much no reason, just for criticizing the government, which is apparently not allowed if Joe Biden's president. So censorship is ramping up, guys. But thank you for following along with us on this live stream. I will be signing off now, and I hope you guys all have a great night.
have a good night, guys.